All right, guys, so this is starting really similar to how it did last week. We need a blank paper, and this does need to be blank. It cannot be a lined paper. It cannot have anything on it. It needs to be a clean white piece of paper to use. You are going to need a pencil, and you are going to need something to create a circle with. If you have things that you can actually create multiple sizes with, so maybe you have like a circle or a tape and then a cup you could use or something like that, it might be more interesting for your project if you have multiple sizes of circles, but if you only have one thing to trace that's a circle, that's fine. So I'm going to go on mine, and I'm going to kind of use the inside of my tape, and then I'm also going to use the outside of the roll of tape because that's going to create two different size circles for me. I want you to create at least 2 circles on your paper. If you can fit more, you absolutely can. But the one thing I do want you to make sure you do is all of your circles need to fully fit on your piece of paper. You don't want any that are half sticking off. So please make sure when you lay whatever it is you're using to help you make a circle, that the circle stays on the piece of paper. You are also going to want something to help you make a straight line. So that could be a ruler, that could be a book, that could be really anything that's going to work to help make a straight edge, a folder, something in the house, as long as it has a flat edge that you can kind of press your pencil up against. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making a checkerboard behind the circles. So I'm going to start by drawing all of my lines going in one direction. And you notice when I get to the circle, I am skipping over the top of it. I am not drawing anything through the circle. So I'm starting with all my horizontal lines for my checkerboard. And a really good way to make sure your lines are going straight and they're not diagonal is to line up the edge of whatever you're using to create your straight line with the edge of your paper. And as long as it's not crooked on there, it should be working all right. So I'm kind of going straight across. Do the best you can. And then the big thing you want to make sure you're doing, other than skipping over your circles and leaving those blank, is trying to keep your lines pretty evenly spaced. If you have 2 really far apart and 2 really close, it's going to be all right, but I would probably try and add maybe 1 in between them or erase 1 and move it, because your illusion will be much more successful if your lines are evenly spaced. The other thing I will say, because I know some of you guys like to get really super small with your detail, if you put these lines super duper close together, it is going to make it very difficult later on. It's going to look really cool, but you are going to have to spend a lot of time working when we go to fill in our checkerboard if you make a lot of super teeny tiny squares. So I would just pay attention to that, kind of keep them medium. You want to have enough, because if you only have a couple lines going down and you leave them too far apart, you won't see the optical illusion. But you don't want to have so many that you're going to, give yourself a big headache later on, and it's going to take way longer than it needs to fill in all of the design. So I have all of my lines going one direction, and now I'm going to flip and do them vertically. And once again, I'm trying to keep my lines about the same distance apart that I did when I was drawing them horizontally. And I'm still skipping over those circles. So I'm trying not to. And I should be making squares right now. If you're making little rectangles, they're like really long and skinny, then your lines are not staying the same distance apart. And if some of them get a little off, like this one got a little crooked, that's okay. It doesn't have to be like exactly mathematically perfect. I don't need to measure each square and it be a certain size. But in general, you want it to be pretty even and straight. All right, so this is where we're going to stop for today. So you need to have 2 circles at least. You can have more than 2, just not less. I don't want any with just 1 circle. And then kind of this checkerboard drawn behind them. And next week, we're going to start working on the illusion that's going to happen inside those circles and how we're going to fill in the checkerboard.